Hey everyone, it's Dalliday, another edition of Hometown PTBO. As you can see in the background, it's the famous Quaker Oats Canada building behind us here. And Matt, you've just finished off your book about the tragic fire back in 1916.
That's
December 11th, is that right?
That's right, 2 weeks to Christmas.
Just before Christmas, and we don't want to give too much of the book away, but how did you get the idea of the book? Why did you want to do it?
That's a really good question. So I didn't even realize, like many people who worked at this factory, it was such a tragic thing. Their families didn't talk about it.
Right.
My family didn't talk about it. So my great-grandfather and his father-in-law lost their lives in the fire that day. And so I didn't know about this at all until like 2016 when the 100th anniversary arrived, and one of my mother's sisters was sitting on the committee to erect that plaque and whatnot that's over at Millennium Park. And I started to learn about this fire and that my family had a connection, and
You never knew?
And I thought, well, my mother said, Matthew, you should write a book about this. So here we are.
There you are. Was it hard with that personal connection? I mean, obviously you didn't meet your great-grandfather or whatever, but just the fact that, we've talked about it, and I had a great-grandfather that worked there as well, and I think left there the week before the fire. So, I mean, when you think about it, both of us may not be standing here right now, right? If certain things had fallen into place, they didn't. But tragically, almost 30 people did lose their lives.
Yeah, 100%. It was really hard, Pete. It was a very emotionally draining thing.
Yeah.
And after I finished the first draft of the book, I had to set it aside for 6 months because it does take a toll on you. And I know when my mother read an early draft of this, she cried. It's just very personal story for her, right? It was her grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The names are in the book a lot. You go through the names, and Peterborough's still a pretty small town. You'd be hard pressed to go over to East City Coffee Shop or wherever and find somebody that is not connected to somebody that has worked at Quaker, in particular, 100 and some years ago, when a lot of our ancestors came over from whether it be Ireland or Italy or wherever the case may be.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's a lot of family names like Guerin, like Garvey, like O'Brien. Yeah. These names still exist in Peterborough.
Yeah, a lot of them grew up, lived right here in East City. There's so many interesting stories in the book, and we don't have time to go over all of them. We want people to check out the book. So before I ask you where you can get the book, if you had to pick one story, one chapter, whatever the case may be, that people would really be drawn to, what would it be if you could give us one?
Sure.
I know that's hard. It's like kind of picking your favorites. Not that it's a tragedy still, but what's one that really?
It is. The one is one that I was telling you about a bit earlier as we were coming over here.
Yeah.
About a man named William Garvey, whose family was living over here on Driscoll Terrace, right near where we're standing now. And his brother worked in the factory too. And Garvey, at the force of the blast, was blown into an elevator leg, and not an elevator like you think. Like they're the mechanical legs that bring the ground grain down to the basement.
Right.
And he was buried to his neck up in grain. And then this wall of flame shot down the chaseway and burnt him completely from the neck up, everything gone. And he's screaming for help, and his brother hears him, and then there's another man, a janitor named Edward Skilleter, who come racing to his help, and they start digging him out by hand, if you can believe it, because they have no shovels, no tools.
Yeah.
And they drag him out to the front, get him on one of the Bellingham Brothers ambulances and over to the hospital, and he survives. He initially survives.
Right.
And he's actually recovers and is promoted to supervisor on the cereal line and goes back to work. But in the fall of 1918, the Spanish flu breaks out, and his lungs had to be ravaged from the fire and breathing in that heat. His immune system compromised from the injuries. He contracted Spanish flu and died. Tragic, tragic story. And the thing is the message for my book, Pete, is not every story has a happy ending.
Right.
And this one does not either.
No.
But that doesn't mean we shouldn't pay homage to it and hear about him. The message here is the resilience. And that's one of the reasons that there's actually a dandelion on the front cover. I'll get to that in another story, but
Sure.
I'm just saying that resilience is the message in the face of
Yep.
adversity.
Well, show us the book here. Just give it a look and then let us know where it's available. How can people get their hands on this?
So right now, of course, it's available for pre-order because it doesn't come out till August 1st
Yep.
on Amazon.
Okay.
But of course, independent local book retailers like Take Cover Books over here in East City, they can order this book in. And many other independent book retailers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Keeping it local as well, which is what
100%.
this story is all about. Really.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, Matt, well done. Obviously, an emotional time for you to write it, for people to read it, I'm sure, too. And I congratulate you for kind of going through all that, kind of almost on behalf of everyone that may have been affected by that over 100 years ago now. Appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to your next book. Maybe a little lighter, who knows? We'll wait and see, but a job well done.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching Hometown PTBO.
Thank you for watching Hometown PTBO, brought to you by the Pyle Group, CIBC, Wood Gundy.